Hey addicts, welcome back to another game review. This time we're talking about Yakuza 4, one of my favorite series that I've been playing on this generation of consoles, and we're here for the fourth entry, so we're going to jump right into it. But before I get to that, I just want to say, if you're new to the series or if you're looking for reviews other than for 4, go ahead and click on our channel and check out the game playlist because it'll have all of the other Yakuza games up to this point. And stay tuned because I will be covering the rest in the series. But with that being said, we're getting right into 4. So talking about the story, obviously this takes place a few years after the events of 3. This centers around a incident that we actually got a inkling of in Yakuza 0, which was about Majima's sworn brother getting sentenced to life in prison or going away to prison. Because of him carrying out a hit for one of the families. And so in Yakuza 4, it kind of goes back and looks at the events of what happened a few decades before, and then also seeing what that event kind of sparked and grew into, and how 4 individuals kind of got intertwined in that and came together to solve that mystery and problem. So I really don't want to talk any more specifically about the story because it's so great and there is little things that I think could potentially spoil it a lot. So I am going to keep it very vague when I talk about the story, as always. But I do want to talk a little bit about the characters because in this entry, unless you're talking about Yakuza 0 2, up to this point, this is the first time we've gotten multiple protagonists to play as, and in Yakuza 4, oddly enough, there is 4 playable protagonists. So we're going to start off by talking about Akiyama. He's the first one you get introduced to, and he is a great character to introduce, all these different characters and just start off the story in general. He's kind of this cocky and laid-back guy. I really like his attitude. I really love his character. Just not only the performance of Akiyama, but also just the way he's written. Really do enjoy him. I love how in the game, specifically with this one, getting introduced to these new characters, there's a lot of things about them that at face value, and even when they're first introduced, you kind of get this superficial impression of them. And I do love this because it just shows how great the writing is from these people, from these developers, because you really get to see early on that there is more than meets the eye to them, and they're actually very deep, very fleshed out, written characters. So, like when you're first introduced to Akiyama, you kind of get this, kind of like mentality or impression from like other people that are talking about him in the game to the start, that he's kind of like a greedy sleazeball, that he's up to something, trying to play the game, right? But you actually figure out that's furthest from the truth. He's actually anything but that. And they do this with other characters too. For instance, the next character, Taiga Saejima, which honestly, probably the character I've been most looking forward to seeing since I played Yakuza 0, just because when I haven't had a lot of time to talk about it since I'm doing just reviews, but Majima is my favorite character. And just hearing about his sworn brother but not really seeing him, it just made me instantly intrigued about seeing what Saejima has been up to and where his story would go and play into this. And there's a lot of things that you wouldn't expect from him given the circumstances. He's a very honorable, very duty-driven. He's kind of regretful and depressed too. So those are actually really things that I find interesting, especially for somebody that's labeled as a cold-hearted killer. You also got Segura. Sorry, I don't know if I'm saying that one right. I heard it very fastly when it's said in the dialogue. But he's also, kind of got so many things about him at the beginning, but you actually, you find him as a very caring truth seeker, obviously a servant of justice. And then you have Kiryu Kazuma, obviously, the dragon himself. Obviously, he's a badass, so there's really no point other than that, besides that, he can, he's strong but kind, sees the good in people, inspiring. Everybody knows this if you've played the other 3. But with that being said, I really did love the story, as I've said before. There's a lot of things, reason why. Partially it's because how well it connects back to some of the other entries that I actually find the most enjoyable or, find the better stories. For instance, there's references to the very first Yakuza game. There's references to Zero, obviously. And they do also some other things, such as in Yakuza 3, if you've watched my review, talk about how, like, one of the characters, I'll just say it here, Hamazaki, had a very, odd ending for him in 3, and it's definitely redeemed in this. I think they give him just enough screen time to actually give more to his character, and he actually does play a pretty good role at the beginning part of the game for this, which I like. You have probably the fastest I've gotten through a Yakuza story is in 4, and partially is because that it does feel like it goes a lot faster because even though you have 4 characters, each of them only have 4 chapters. So, if you told that up, it's still a good amount of story to get through. But just, it's just boom, 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 and you just kind of want to, I don't know, at least to me, I felt myself actually going through more main missions either in bulk or more often choosing them over side missions just because the story was that driven for me, which is saying a lot because I already love the series and just as a gamer in general, like to sidetrack and do all the side stuff first. But in this one, it kind of, maybe not do that. It kind of made me change my deal. So I think saying that is, a lot to be a good praise for. There is one minor hole, plot hole, and it has to do with Majima's flashback. It's kind of conflicting. At least I feel like it's kind of conflicting from some of the similar situation that we got to see in Yakuza 0, but I still loved seeing it, and this came first, so it's kind of justified. Now we're gonna get on to probably what most people would say is the best part of the game. Well, not the best part, but maybe the most important, and that is the combat. It is I would say the funnest I've had in combat since Yakuza 0 because it brings a lot of new things to the table, obviously with the 3 new characters, and then just changing up how it plays or how it feels to play. So with instance for Akiyama, he's got really good combos. He focuses on kicks more than punches. He has extended interactables or finishers. And he also has plenty of ways to feel the heat, charge up heat. So he's actually a really fast-paced guy to play as. With Segura, it emphasizes more on counters. He's slightly slower, but he's also very varied in the heat abilities. And one of the cool things about playing as Segura is that the heat actions actually come out of combos fluently. So, for instance, if you're doing a square, 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 square combo, and then finish it off, obviously, like you would do with normal ones with a triangle, you can actually, if you have your heat gauge up so far, or to the first level, it'll actually go straight into a heat action without any other specific ones. And, it does have a few different varied ones. And then when you master them, obviously, it unlocks, another stage of that. But with Saejima, he's probably the biggest dude we've seen in a while. So as you could probably notice from just that, he focuses on grappling not only his enemies, but picking up big objects. And, he's definitely super slow. When I say he's slow, he's really slow. You can get him a little bit faster, but he is definitely more of a power-focused hitter. And I would say with Saejima, he's probably my least favorite to play as. I think, obviously that's subjective. People could find him maybe the most favorite. But I just think out of all of the new characters, he has the least new abilities and combos because you can see a lot of things taken from Kiryu's Beast style from earlier in the franchise. And then also you have Kiryu. I mean, he's just a mix of speed and strength. He's good old Kiryu. If you've played the other ones, which I'm assuming you have, you'll know how to play him. He's just I would say the most balanced of all the characters. Then with the leveling system is simple, fast, and right to the point, and I absolutely think it's, especially for a brawler in a game that's moving at a faster pace than I found myself moving in other ones in the series. I think this is a huge plus. It's mostly similar to me, or it reminds me the most of Kiwami 2's leveling system. Instead of actually specific orbs in like colors and focusing on different areas, it's just one type of orb that you get as you go on to the next level, and then all of the skill trees and abilities are all listed out neatly. They divide them by category, and then you can see all of them as you scroll down, and it's pretty simple. I think the most expensive ones are like 6 orbs, and then there's a lot of 1, 2, and 3, obviously, a couple of 4, and you get 3 every time you level up. And like I said, you level up pretty fast, so it is a very rewarding leveling system, and I think that is something that you definitely need when you're playing as multiple protagonists. So definitely doesn't drag on, and I think it is actually one of the better leveling systems in the whole series, at least up to this point. A couple of missed things I want to mention. The world and the maps that you get to go through, man, do they really impress me on this. They do a lot of things to really make Kamurocho feel like you're actually there. I think I had read that they wanted to make it feel more like, real life Japan, or Tokyo. So they did a lot of things to open up the world. For instance, you can get on rooftops, you can go underground into the subways, parking lots. There's just a lot of variety here. There's even some, teleporting locations that you can go to as well. But I think the actual map of Kamurocho is the big standout, especially for a series that focuses mostly on the same map. This was a great way to make me feel like I hadn't seen something yet, and there was plenty of new places to explore. So that was definitely probably the biggest thing out of the main stuff that I would say is a big highlight. Also, I just think it's really cool because seeing it more in a realized vision of the world. Pretty cool. Also, another thing I want to highlight is chases. We mentioned before in the last review, the chases were just nightmare. They were awful, and I hated every minute of it, wanted to break my controller. But in this one, they do a great job of improving those. I actually looked forward to a lot of the chases. There was an element of some things that worked, or I think that are the same from 3 that are in this one. It's just that they're more polished and they work better. For instance, you can, if you're running, you can pick up the bottles and chuck them at the person that you're chasing to slow them down or to trip them up. There's just way less, gripping on the characters, or keeping you from doing what you're needing to do in weird ways. So it works a lot better. You can definitely see where they got to Judgment's level in this one. Huge improvement. Give them kudos for that. Obviously, there's some more little things, like for instance, when you go and play in the Coliseum, you respawn with all of your health back if you win the fight. I just noticed that wasn't the case in 3, so that's why I wanted to throw that out there. That I thought that was cool that they brought that back, because I think it was in 0, or maybe not. I don't remember, but I like that. Obviously, full of mini games like any Yakuza. A couple of new ones or big ones I would mention is the fishing, the Coliseum, and then the IF7R, which is it stands for Inner Fighter 7 Revolution. And this is actually a really cool new addition to the leveling or unlocking abilities. Instead of just going to your regular trainer and working, they have those too, but in this it's a way for you to go back and play old bosses and learn new things from them, whether it's a health grade, whether it's increasing your heat bar, whether it's increasing how hard your punches hit, or unlocking a completely new ability altogether, or technique or heat action. And I just find it a really fun kind of mini game, but also intertwined with the leveling and progressing forward. And I can definitely see that being super huge. help if you're struggling with the combat scenarios, or if you're just going into New Game Plus and trying a higher difficulty. And I definitely, as a side note, I definitely am curious. I want to go back. If anybody knows for sure if this is the same, or if it's Easter egged that this is the version 1 of the VR game in Judgment, please let me know, because I've thought about this when I was playing Yakuza 4, and if that's the case, that's hysterical, and I love that. If not, it's cool, but I just thought you can definitely see where the evolution of that idea was, reinvented and used in a different way. So great. The other thing, also, I didn't know if I mentioned it, but there's also golf again. There's plenty of other minigame type stuff, that is standard in the Yakuza series that they've been putting in there. But those are just a few of the highlights that I think were really cool, whether they be new or just big focuses of the game, in case you haven't played any of the other ones before. So overall, with my verdict, this is a really high tier game. This is a series that has never really disappointed me. Well, maybe a little bit in 3, but it's steadily done an amazing job at bringing a fantastic story and really fun gameplay. So I'm going to be giving it a gotta have it, and this is a high tier 8 out of 10 for me, because obviously there is some things about these games that aren't as polished as some American or Western release games, but definitely the heart, the dedication, just what the amount of quality content they put in there at the level it is very impressive. And so I think it is definitely a fantastic game. For me, one of the things that really made this one stand out in a long time, or maybe more so than other ones in the series, is just its connection and callbacks to Yakuza 1 and 0. Those are probably the two ones I would put on the upper list if I was ranking the series. So yeah, and as always, fun combat, and I think they really do a great job in this entry with some innovation and tweaks, making it feel not only different from all of the other ones before, but just also evolved, with the map, like I mentioned, and also, making it feel fast-paced and like you're not, grinding as much. So really a good game. Can't recommend it enough. You guys should go check it out. If you haven't played Yakuza 4 yet, and you're like me and started with 0, and you've only played up to that point, Yakuza 0 to 3, you're in for a great ride. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it informative. I'm going to be coming back to do Yakuza 5 when it's released in the next year. I'll be doing some unboxings related to the series, and I really do want to do a discussion or two about Yakuza, and maybe even talk about the Yakuza 7. So we'll see how that plans out. It's going to be probably a bit busy in 2020, so we'll just see how everything gets done. But yeah. All Yakuza fans, stay tuned, because I ain't going anywhere. Love this series. We'll always talk about it. So without further ado, guys, peace. Have a good one.